Good morning and welcome to the programme. We will have more on that breaking story regarding what Zara King has been tweeting. Zara King, as you know, is a reporter with Virgin Media News, and she just tweeted a few minutes ago, a student has agreed with WIT as a precautionary measure to stay in isolation until further notice. He is not ill, not showing any symptoms, but as a precaution is staying in isolation in his accommodation in Waterford City. He's a Chinese student who travelled from Wuhan, and WIT has confirmed this to Virgin Media News. He arrived in Waterford yesterday, left Wuhan some days ago before the city was closed. So we're going to try and talk to Zara in a minute. If we do get Zara on the line, we will talk to her. We've a lot coming up in the programme. I'll go through our running order in a few minutes, but firstly I'm going to go straight to Dr. Mally Coyne. Good morning, Mally, how are you?
Good morning, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, I'm good. Thanks for talking to us this morning. You're a clinical psychologist and lecturer, and I think it's appropriate on a Monday morning after the tragedies we've had over the weekend that we talk to you and just try and put some context in terms of the matters at hand. The tragedy, the crime, apparently, but the tragedy of 3 children having been killed over the weekend. What was your initial reaction when you heard it? Was it the kind of reaction of anybody to think, oh my God, this is just horrendous?
Absolutely. I mean, I think anybody would react that way, particularly if you're a parent, to think of, 3 kids dying like that, just being taken. It's just really, really traumatic. And I think for adults it can be traumatic, but for kids who hear about it, it can also be traumatic for them.
But in terms of talking to children and in terms of the issues of how we talk to children, how do we talk to children about this?
I think it's really important. I suppose it really depends on your child's age, but also getting a sense of what they already know about the event or not. Okay, so like I have 8 and 6-year-old, I made sure that whenever it came on the news this weekend that I just switched off the news. I wouldn't let them listen to the news anyway, even in the car, the headlines. I just switch it off. So they don't know about it. So I think if you can try to kind of prevent them from hearing things like that, I think it's important to try to do that. But getting a sense of what your child already knows about the event. I mean, some kids who may not have heard it at the weekend may hear about it in the playground today from other schoolmates. Older kids might hear about it on social media. And I think it's really important just to get a sense of what your child already knows about the event, rather than assuming that they know everything or that they know nothing.
And should you then broach the subject with them? So should you sit them down and say, by the way, children, there's a story happened over the weekend. You may hear about it on the news or on social media, and this is what I want to tell you about it, and this is how we need to talk about it. Should you actually broach the subject as opposed to not getting them to listen to the news?
Well, I mean, I think if many parents, I think it's natural to kind of switch something off if you feel it's inappropriate. And I know not every parent does that. But I just think, if you can avoid them hearing something, then there's no need for them to hear it. But I think if they're older than 10, maybe 11, 12, they're getting into that age group where undoubtedly they will have heard about it. But I think there's no harm in saying, is there anything, there's things in the news at the moment that are upsetting? Is there anything that you've heard? You can broach it in that way, and kind of get a sense of what they know or don't know. I think particularly a teenager will have heard about it. So I think it's important that you do what you've just said there, is ask them what is it that they know and that you're there to talk to them, and to really, it's about reassuring them about their safety. And I know, like, we all go around assuming that the world is a safe place, but things, tragedies like this really rock that belief. They shatter it, kind of rocks it for a little while, but not forever as such. So I think reassuring them that that they are safe and that this is a rare event. This doesn't happen every day in the news. Thank God it doesn't happen, but it is rare.
It is rare. And yet when it happens, the fact that it is so rare, but it goes to the heart of every relationship that mothers and fathers may have with their children in terms of that love that's supposed to be there, that undying love, and for a parent potentially to harm a child is unspeakable. And to get children to talk about this, like what should you actually say to them? If a child says to you, let's say a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old says to you, why would somebody do this to a child, Mammy? What do you say to them?
Well, I suppose we're kind of, we don't know yet what the circumstances are.
No, we don't, yeah.
Yeah, no, but we have heard of past cases where we know that a parent has harmed a child.
Yes.
And I think having a more general conversation about mental health and how people who are in a state of, that in their minds they're very confused and there's a lot going on and they feel like that, for them life isn't worth it, and sometimes they might believe that their kids would be safer or better if they weren't, around, or so, if they did, I know that sounds awful, but it kind of forms part of a greater conversation. I have had to explain to my own kids about suicide and about how sometimes people feel so alone, and they really truly believe that they would be better off not here. And I know it's a more difficult thing, though, to explain a situation where it's like a homicide. I understand that. But it's a greater conversation about, how when people are mentally unwell, sometimes they do things that are unspeakable to others, but it's because of where they are in their minds at the time, and that they really, really need help.
It's really difficult, Dr. Coyne. It really is difficult because I remember talking to children at the time when there was a situation in Clonroach in Wexford, and Wexford had a number of tragedies where a father killed his children, and it's kind of. I nearly go so far to say it's impossible to explain these things.
It is. It is. But I think the most important, and you can even say that to your child. I find it really hard to explain it. That this is such an awful thing to happen, and it's really, really difficult. I think the most important thing is that they know that they can share their worries or their fears with you. That they need to talk about things as well. That you try to keep to normal routines, activities as much as possible, and limit their exposure to violent films or TV programs or social media if they have access to phones. I would, because it's kind of repeating the trauma over and over again, watching it on the news. It does that to adults. Can you imagine what it does to little kids' undeveloped brains? So I think and then if you feel, most kids are quite resilient and they go back to normal after a while.
Yes.
But, some of them can, some of them can have kind of minor problems like bedwetting, stomach pains, concentration problems, sleep problems, withdrawal from normal social activities. They might need extra cuddles at this time, more physical contact, more reassurance of their safety. But for some kids, if they continue to experience post-traumatic stress symptoms after a month, like being, quite anxious, having flashbacks, not sleeping in their own bed, difficulty concentrating, but things that are, loss of interest and enjoyment in life, then you kind of go and try to get some help. Yeah.
I think, in my experience, you're better off trying to say something to them that this story is out there in the news. You might hear something about it, but I just want to assure you as a parent that my love for you is forever there, and whatever, and the illness that might be there. Like one of the other cases I covered in the past, the man was an intense hypochondriac, and it was an illness that caused him a mental illness, and he felt that if he was going to die, the children wouldn't be able to live without him, and that's one of the reasons. Like a texter has just texted in 083 333 975. Damien, my 10-year-old grandchild heard adults talking about the tragedy, the horrendous tragedy at the swimming pool. Came home and said, why would anybody or somebody do that to everyone? Everyone loves their babies. We just said some people have problems and maybe it's an illness. So again, children will pick up these things. Like there's a child listening to it, listening to parents talking about it or adults talking about it. So it can happen. It's very, very difficult to shield people, isn't it?
It is very difficult to shield them. And I think if you have an open enough relationship with your child anyway, you would be checking in with them regularly anyway, and they would be letting you know if there's anything in their lives, whether it be on the news or just something that happened with somebody in the playground that's upsetting them, so that you're kind of responding to situations as they arise, but you're also having regular conversations about how they're getting on. Because you usually notice signs in your child when they're not, when they're worried about something or something's happening, So, and also kind of letting them know that when these tragedies happen, that I think it can help them to know that the children and the families who are within this area are going to be getting help. I mean, there was a priest on another radio station this morning talking about how they had come together in the church, and many families had come together to pray for the children and to kind of show their solidarity. And that's really helpful for kids to know that during tragic events, people come together, and that support agencies do provide support to children and families who are affected. That can really help them to know that.
I can. Dr. Mally Coyne, thanks for joining us this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Dr. Mally Coyne, they're a clinical psychologist and lecturer. Another text in from Tony. 3 young angels, very sad, lost for words. And it is a time, it's one of those stories that people can literally be lost for words, that words cannot explain how and why, and it's just horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. 083 333 975. If you want to text us in, you can call Laura on 051 846 123. In a few minutes, we're doing our 12 with Tiernan with David Cullinane, and then we are going to be talking to John Pratt in a little while as well, to election candidates. We're also going to be talking to the triplets who scored goals for Waterford in their amazing match against Galway in the women's football. We are also going to be talking about the brilliant win for the Waterford hurlers yesterday, the Galtier Camogie, and a number of other matters such as that. And Tommy O'Mahony's coming on from the Waterford Wildcats to talk about their great win and also the death of Kobe Bryant. We'll also be talking to Stephen Behan, DCU School of Health and Human Performance, on the idea that 25% of primary school-age children cannot run properly. So let us know what you think about that. Also, we're plugging our holiday competition. If you hear the song on the programme this morning, then we will be able to see how it goes with that. I think I'm going to go straight to Zara King there now before we... hello, Zara, are you there?
Hi, good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Zara, thanks for talking to us this morning. Virgin Media reporter. Tell me, I know we don't know very much about this story at present, but can you tell us what you do know, please?
Yes, I mean, very little information is out there at the moment, but we know that a student who arrived in Waterford yesterday, having left Wuhan some days ago, this was before the city closed, did arrive in Waterford City, and he has agreed with the WIC just as a precautionary measure to stay in isolation until further notice. Now, it should be stressed that this student is not ill. He's not showing any symptoms, but this is definitely just a precaution. He's staying in isolation in his accommodation in Waterford City just until further notice. The college says it has been in touch with the HSE and will take guidance on the matter, but it's very important to stress nobody should be panicking in Waterford this morning. This guy left before the city closed down. He is in isolation. It is self-agreed isolation, and the WIT is stressing that it is completely precautionary. And the HSE just in the last few moments also confirming to Virgin Media News that it is aware of the situation and it's working closely with the college. So that's the situation at the moment. And
that's the situation. As we know, the virus itself, the coronavirus, has an incubation period of between 1 and 14 days, and it can be infectious at that particular stage. So we don't know whether this is a young man, is it?
I understand it's a young man. I have no details on what his age is.
Yeah.
I also want to that he's not studying on the main campus of WIT. There's 5 campuses obviously in the city, so he is not actually studying on the main campus as it is. So, like I say, WIT is very keen to stress this morning there's no need to panic. This is very much a consensual agreement between the students and the college just to stay in isolation until further notice.
And do you know, Zara, did this young man present himself to the college and say, by the way, I've just come from Wuhan, or would the college have sort of said, by the way, have you just come from Wuhan? We don't know the lines of communication on this. No.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how this came to light. There's no information on that. We just know that the situation is being dealt with, as I say, completely consensual between the college and the students. Yeah.
OK, Zara, thanks for joining us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Great, thank you, Damien.
Thank you, Zara King there, Virgin Media News, with the breaking news there regarding a student from Wuhan who has put himself into isolation in his apartment for the present. Coming up, we are going to be talking to David Cullinane. Now, 12 with Tiernan. Do you like that, David? 12 with Tiernan.
I do indeed, Damien.
Damo's dirty dozen.
Well, very good.
Now, there's only 11 candidates, so it's 12 minutes. Nothing to do with that. You're going to be the first candidate not to cry on air with me, not to collapse.
Well, listen, I genuinely wish all of the candidates well, Damien. I'm not just saying that. Politics is very tough and campaigns are very tough, and we have a lot of good candidates from all parties standing, and I said at the very, very outset that my campaign will be positive, that I'll focus on the future of Waterford.
And we'll go through that now in a second. I'll have a few questions for you. Some people can text in if you want to text in 083 3333 975, and we can take those if I can work them into the 12 minutes. Again, the 12 minutes goes like that very, very quickly. I know John Pratt is out there looking at me now saying, Jesus, I wonder how it's going to go for them. There you go, John's laughing now. So what we'll do is we'll do a little stopwatch on it. Listen, I'm delighted you came in, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien.
It's a pleasure to see you again, and it's good to have you in. You are the Sinn Féin candidate in Waterford, running in the general election, and you are running on a number of different, I suppose, big ticket items, and we can go through those. So the first question I'm going to ask you will be about your policies and why should people vote for David Cullinane. Some people have texted in about, are you running a dirty social media campaign against Western Bates candidates? I don't know where that's coming from. And we'll talk about some other specific items regarding policies and stuff like that. So we'll start the clock. David Cullinane, why should people vote for you?
Well, I think I'm standing, first of all, on my own track record, Damien. I've tried my best over the last 4.5 years to strongly represent the people of Waterford City and County. I have been a very strong voice, I hope a very effective voice. I understand how to get things done. I've been a strong advocate for better health services, for the hospital, for housing, and I'm picking it up on the doorsteps that people want strong representation, they want a strong voice, and I genuinely believe that Sinn Féin has an excellent opportunity to be in government after the next election. The opinion polls are showing it. I'm getting it on the doors. People want change. They're hungry for it. And I want to be part of that, part of a Sinn Féin leadership that can bring about change for Waterford, because Waterford has been left behind. We can see Cork, Limerick, Galway and Dublin are powering ahead. We need strong voices in government and strong TDs that can deliver for this constituency. And I'll be asking people to endorse me based on my record.
Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael say they won't go into government with you. How can you say you're going to be in government when neither of them are going to go into government with you? You're not going to get 50 seats.
And what's coming up on the doors is the arrogance of those parties to say that they can exclude Sinn Féin or anybody else. If we have a very good election, make no mistake about it, other parties will talk to us. We're not rushing into government with any single party. We will try and get the biggest mandate we can for Sinn Féin. And I can tell you that if we increase our seats, the option for Micheál Martin, by the way, will be to talk to Sinn Féin and other parties, or to go in with Fine Gael, and that's a matter for him. We are standing in this election campaign on our mandate and the policies that we want to deliver, because since the foundation of the state, Damien, and you know this, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, over and back, if you want real change, you have to vote for real change.
But you're saying that you'll talk to anybody. Will you talk to Fine Gael?
We'll talk to all parties, Damien.
So you could effectively prop up a Fine Gael government?
What we said, and this is why other parties have
responded. That's what you just said, you'll talk to everybody?
We'll talk to all parties, including Labour.
Would you go into government with Fine Gael?
It will be down to what type of programme for government we can get. So when
you're not saying
the election, no, when the election is over, you put your mandate on the table, you put your policies on the table, and what I'm saying very clearly to the people of Waterford, unless we get a very clear, solid commitment on issues like health and housing, on issues to do with Waterford, by the way, because our manifesto will be launched tomorrow, Sinn Féin will be the only party that will have a clear and unequivocal commitment to deliver 24/7 emergency cardiac services in our hospital. I want to be in government. I want to deliver. I want Waterford to thrive. I want the best for the people of this city and county. And I believe, Damien, I have the ability to make things happen for this constituency. And I'll talk to everybody. How likely is it that Sinn Féin will be in government with Fine Gael? I would say very unlikely, because I don't believe that Fine Gael are committed to public services. I'd prefer to work with Labour. I'd prefer to work with the Greens. I'd prefer to work with independents. But in the final analysis, Damien, it's up to the people to decide who wins what seats. But my strong point is this. Do not believe other parties when they say they won't talk, Because Micheál Martin said, on the one hand, I won't go in with Fine Gael, on the other hand, I won't go in with Sinn Féin. A government will have to be formed, and I want to be there to deliver for Waterford when that discussion after the election is taking place.
What do you think of the issue that Mary Butler raised recently? Brendan Howlin spoke about it last week, that they still believe, and your former finance minister up in the north said that there's unelected people that you still have to talk to outside of Sinn Féin. Is the IRA Army Council still influencing Sinn Féin?
The IRA is gone. The IRA Army Council is gone. It's been gone for a considerable number of years, and everybody knows that. We have one of the best peace processes in the world. We have the institutions in the north re-established. Sinn Féin has ministers, the Deputy First Minister, the Minister for Finance, and just 20 seconds on that person that they're talking about in terms of the Assembly. His name is Ted Howell. Ted Howell was one of the architects of the Good Friday Agreement. He negotiated with Tony Blair. He negotiated with Bertie Ahern. He was one of those that was an advisor to Gerry Adams at that time. Every party has advisors, so this is nonsense. Jerry Kelly was an elected member of the Assembly. He was in the IRA. Martin Ferris was a member of the Dáil. He was in the IRA. But the IRA are gone. And what we have now...
Do you believe Gerry Adams was ever in the IRA?
Well, he has answered that question himself. For me, the most important thing is that they're gone and that we keep the peace process on track.
How can you be 100% sure they're gone?
Because they said they're gone. There's no evidence that they operate. There's no reason for them to exist. I don't believe we're ever going to see them come back again. I think the peace process is rock solid. The clear focus now for Republicans, and we said it after the ceasefires, Damien, we encourage people who are members of the IRA to get politically active, as did the Irish government. For years they said we want to persuade people to turn away from violence and embrace democratic politics, as they put it. So I don't think there's any harm in former members of the IRA being politically active if that's what they choose to do. Many of them went home. Many of them done nothing, but they are absolutely gone. And this election campaign, Mary Butler and others might want to make this about the past. I can tell you what people are talking about on the doors is the future. It's the future of Waterford. It's the future of this country. And we have big politics, big ideas around how we can shape the future of this country over the next 10 years. And I make the point again, I want to be a strong voice for the people in this constituency to deliver for the hospital, to deliver for the airport, to deliver the university. And when I was 18 years of age, when I first stood for election, and I remember very, very clearly politicians talking about a university, politicians talking about the airport, and we're still talking about it. I want to be the politician in Waterford that delivers.
6 minutes gone. One of the main constituency groupings in this constituency is farmers. May not want to get into farming too much. Sinn Féin proposes removing cap subsidies to farming factory feedlots. I know you're saying you're not going to cut the national herd. How do you square the idea of not cutting the national herd with what's in this document, the climate justice and just transition? Are you not trying to having your cake and eat it?
No, I think the first thing we have to recognise is that, and especially in this part of the country, farming is hugely important and agri-food is hugely important. There are big employers here, not just with Glanbia, but with meat processing companies and farmers themselves. What farmers want is fair pay. So they want a fair price for their produce. They want fair cap. And what we're proposing is that there will be a €60,000 upper limit cap so that the big factory farmers, the big ranchers, are not the ones like Larry Goodman, who gets €500,000 in cap subsidies. We want that to be capped at 60,000 and the excess then to be given to family farmers who produce the best quality food in the world.
So are you looking at intervening in the market?
Well, we're looking at making sure that, it's not that happens anyway, because cap payments are in essence intervening in the market. Yeah. What we want, as I said, I meet farmers all the time. I'm meeting farmers tomorrow in my office from across the southeast to want to meet me on these policies. Our position is clear. Fair play for farmers because they've been let down with the Workers' or Trade Agreement and imported cheap beef coming in. Fair pay for farmers and fair cap. And that's resonating. You can see it. Farmers are very angry because, like a lot of people, they've been voting for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael down through the years and they don't believe that they've been properly represented.
In this document I have here in front of me, you're not proposing an increase in carbon tax, and yet there's all different sort of things that you're saying you're going to be able to do regarding making the world and Ireland a greener place. How are you going to pay for it if you're not going to increase carbon tax?
Carbon taxes are going to bring in very little money, even for the government. The government are not saying saying they're bringing in carbon taxes to increase revenue.
Well, they're looking at 600 million over a certain period of time.
Well, and that's over 10 years. But what they're saying is that the carbon tax increases, as they see it, is to change people's behaviour. It can't change people's behaviour, Damien, if the alternatives are not in place. The vast majority of people out there have their homes heated by oil or gas. The vast majority of people can't afford an electric car. The vast majority of people can't retrofit their homes, do a deep retrofit. We want to make the investments first. We have people in this constituency, in villages, Bunman, Stradbally, in places that they have no bus services, no rural transport.
So what do you think of Eamon Ryan's comments that there should be carpooling?
Well, listen, I think he had to roll back very, very quickly because it's just not practical. And that's my problem with the Green Party. They don't have practical policies, and you have to live in the real world. Yes, we have to do more on climate action, of course. What we want to concentrate on is enabling people and facilitating people to make the changes, not punish them with increased carbon taxes. And on funding our proposals, our manifesto is being launched tomorrow. You're going to get a lot of noise coming from the other parties. We put it through the Department of Finance, the entire document. Not only did they say it was balanced, they said that Sinn Féin would run a surplus of 3 billion based on our proposals. And we want to put money back in people's pockets. The first €30,000 of USC gone. We want to increase, obviously, in health. We want to increase an extra 500 million in childcare to reduce the cost of childcare. We want to build the homes that people need and reduce the cost of rents. All of these things have to happen, because if they don't...
They're going to cost an awful lot of money.
And we have costed all of them, Damien, and people then can make up their own minds. Because here's the thing. I can come back after the election, which I will. I'll be on your programme for the next 5 years. Are we still going to talk about a housing crisis or a health crisis? We have a hospital across the road. There's a Dunmore wing. There's 50 beds lying idle. They are top quality beds, isolation beds. Now, riddle me this, Damien, and you can answer me this if you can. Why are those 50 beds empty? We have people on trolleys. We have people who need healthcare, need treatment, and we have 50 brand new state-of-the-art beds which are lying idle because they don't have the staff. That's what this government has delivered. And I've been in there scrapping and fighting for the hospital since I was elected to this Shannon. I was the
second cath lab's on the way. The mortuary's been done. The Dunmore wing will be filled in the next 6 months.
And how did we get all of that? We got it by politicians like myself working together. We pushed the Minister to deliver the funding for the mortuary. We pushed the Minister to deliver the funding for the palliative care.
And they delivered. The government were argued that they listened and they responded.
And it took them an awful long time, because we were up against not just the Department of Health and the HSE. The first time I raised the I was the first politician to raise the cardiac issue nationally in the Shannon in 2011. In 2015, I raised it in a motion with the Health Minister at the time. Who was it? Leo Varadkar. At that time, he was saying no. The first time I met Simon Harris, Minister for Health, with others, he said no. 6 meetings, it was no, 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 until we kept going at it with all of the campaign groups and the people of Waterford and the feet on the ground, that noise behind us, and we forced them to move. But we need to move to a 24/7 emergency service, Damien. It's in our manifesto, and I want to be in government to deliver on that for the people of this constituency.
Now, there's so many texts and comments coming in. We're going to take some of those during the debate we're going to have. We've only got 50 seconds left. It's amazing how the time flies. Are you going to be a minister?
I would want to be in government. Whether I'm a minister or not is obviously not my call. I think that I'm well positioned in Sinn Féin if we were to be in government. I want real change. I don't have a personal ambition for myself, but I do have an ambition for Waterford. I have a vision for this city and county. I want to see Waterford City and County not in the second tier, not in the back seat, in the front seat.
And are you willing to make tough decisions like local authority? There was a bit of a failing there, do you know what I mean?
There's no failing there, because this was the government that cut €14.5 million for Waterford over 5 years. Sinn Féin is not going to accept that type of cuts for Waterford. We need Waterford in the front seat. We need investment, not cuts. And I want to be, yes, I do want to be a minister in government delivering for this constituency. And I would say to Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael voters who are listening, who are uneasy with their parties, consider lending David Cullinane your vote in this election. I want to be a strong voice with the strongest possible mandate going back to Dublin after this election.
David Cullinane, thank you very much.
Thank you, Damien.
Now, keep your texts and your comments coming in. 083 3333 975, text or WhatsApp. Or you can call Laura on 051 846 123. There are some questions coming in for all the different candidates. For example, A lady rang in to say about the housing crisis. He's a daughter at home. A man rang in who earns too much to qualify for social housing, too little for a mortgage. He knows lots of families in the same situation. What will Sinn Féin help to do them in government? The squeezed middle that man is talking about, and a perfect example. What we're going to be doing is next week we're going to be doing a number of debates with all the different candidates. So we'll put some of these questions to those. Questions like that, John Pratt.
No problem, Damien.
And we'll go through all the different things. Bill, for example, phoned in about the 300 taxi drivers have to go to Kilkenny to get their licences renewed. What will Sinn Féin or Fianna Fáil or Labour do to help them? Other people talking about the promises that people are making in politicians. So John Pratt joins me now. John Pratt, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for coming down to me. Really appreciate it. Or up, is that the case may be. What would you say now if you're in Tallow? Is it up to Waterford City?
Do you know what? I always kind of get confused on that one, whether it is up or down. But I'm here anyway, Damien.
Fair play to you. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And as I say, this is our little 12 minutes. It goes very, very quickly. So if people want to text in comments, they can do, and any questions. And if we don't get to them, we'll put them as part of the debate next week. You're the current mayor of Waterford. You are a councillor with Labour. How many years are you in Labour?
I'm involved with, I first ran in 2004, but I would have been involved in canvassing for Brian O'Shea prior to that.
Prior to that. So you're around the Labour Party and Labour milieu for quite a number of years. You're the Labour Party candidate in the general election. So we're going to do our little 12 minutes now, and I'll start the clock now. John Pratt, why should people consider voting for you, number one?
Well, Damien, I suppose I'm a councillor. As I said there, I ran first in 2004 and I didn't get elected, but I got a very good vote, and I came back in 2009 and I was the first Labour person to get elected in Tallow and in my area. So since then I've been dealing obviously a lot, and I went on then, and I've been 11 years a councillor. I was Cathaoirleach of the Dungarvan area in 2018-19, and I'm the current mayor of Waterford City and County Council. So I suppose I've a lot of experience of dealing with the people on the ground, and that's what you get when you see. I've always been a community activist. I'm on the ground. I hear the people. The people that are telling their stories, with their real life stories, and how they are suffering. And I want to have an opportunity, because I suppose you can do so much as a local councillor, but I feel there's so much more to be done in the areas of housing and health and childcare costs, and I just want to give an opportunity, and I feel getting to the Dáil is the next step in that.
What about that man's comments about his daughter who earns too much to qualify for social housing and too little for a mortgage? What would Labour Party do to help her?
Yeah, well, look, the reality is that we need to be building more homes, and people in the squeeze middle are definitely the people that you meet on the doors who cannot afford a mortgage and are not able to get on the housing list. And we now need to work very closely with these people and ensure that rents, because you have the cost of rents as well. So these people are actually paying enormous rents in some areas.
So you're proposing a rent freeze?
You need a rent freeze, definitely.
And what about the talk that Fianna Fáil say this might be unconstitutional?
Well, this was put in place before, and Jan O'Sullivan had done this in the past with the Labour Party. So I don't believe that that's true. It has been done. It can be done. And, we need to...
what about landlords that want to sort of say we have to increase rents at certain stages?
The reality is, these people that are squeezed middle, these people are nurses, they're teachers, they're not, they're the working people that we have. And the landlords, they've been helped in other ways too, I suppose, when you talk about even the HAP, There was a time when the landlords were struggling, and in fairness, the HAP scheme came on board where people who wanted to access housing, and now these are actually becoming the new homeless, the people that are on HAP who actually, the landlord is entitled to sell their homes, and these people are now in a situation where they cannot get a house, and there is no onus on the council to actually house these people, which so now it's time for us to build, we're on about building 80,000 homes on public land, and we need to get on with the business of the day, and let's get that done.
How are you going to pay for all of that and pay for all the different things? Because I was looking at your different views, the Connecting Rural Ireland thing here, and an awful lot of things that you're aspiring to, but the cost of some of these things are ginormous.
Well, the reality,
how are you going to pay for everything? Are you going to increase taxes?
No, we're not going to increase taxes.
You're not going to increase taxes?
No. The reality is...
carbon tax will go up.
Damien, the reality is that there was...
Carbon tax will go up, though. Am I right there?
1.5 billion. The carbon tax is in the loop, but this has to be done in a way...
So you will increase taxes?
This has to be done in a way that the less well-off are not going to suffer the most.
A just transition, that's what you're talking about. Yeah.
And the reality is, Damien, that Sorry, I just...
No, you're fine. So in terms of, let's look at farming, for example, right? And let's look at a lot of people in Waterford are involved in farming. I asked your leader, Brendan Howland, the other day, the plan is for Labour to cut the national herd. He wasn't able to tell me by how much. Maybe you don't have specific figures on that, but like, how do you square that with the idea of a just transition? If our farmers going to be compensated, what's going to happen?
Well, look, I believe, the farming community, I come from a rural community, and people that elect me are from a rural community, if I'm honest with you, at local level. And we produce the best beef in the world, probably. We have a proven track record. Our quality is, so we need to ensure there are so many other ways of the just transition. It's not just the farming community that have to do it. Like we have to improve our public services, public transport, cycling. We need to invest in retrofitting of homes. We're talking about investing getting 100,000 homes through retrofitting. And the reality is there's 1.5 billion. You asked me there earlier and I got a little bit caught up, but there was 1.5 billion of a surplus last year. And why isn't this used in the areas of healthcare, childcare costs are enormous. They're 3.5 times the costs nationally. And that's something that we can do. If the money is spent in the right way, we can aspire to having these better quality services in those areas we have 5 red lines at the moment, Damien, and it is in the area of the building homes, the area of housing, as I said, healthcare, job security. You know what I mean? Like these 0-hour contracts, they're just not fair. Let people be willing to work temporary work and facilitate the temporary work, but also to be able to ensure that the minimum wage becomes a living wage. At the end of the day, people have to spend. If you don't have a living wage, well, then the money isn't going back into your communities or back into the businesses, and it's very, very important.
Okay, on the national herd question I asked you earlier, maybe you don't have a specific figure. If you don't, that's fine. But
as you said, Brendan, I was with Brendan when you asked that question. Yeah. There is no specific figure that I know of. And, I'm not going to try and...
No, because I'd imagine that a party would have its policies worked out to say we will believe that we cut them by 100,000. That would allow for reduced methane and all that sort of stuff. Because a lot of those constituents that you're talking about are in your area. And farmers have been on to me to know about this.
Is that, look, I really hope that we don't cut it too substantially, because as I said, these people are trying to get by as well. They've had tough times. They've had tough times recently as well. You know what I mean? They've been out on pickets because of their situation. So I mean,
very much so.
This just transition comes back into that again, and it's very, very important.
6 minutes gone already. You just mentioned there about 0-hour contracts. Would you force employers? Would you change the law and force them basically that they have to employ people on a minimum amount of hours?
Well, I think that people should have a minimum amount of hours. I mean, why should somebody not know from week to week what they're going to earn? And how do they pay their mortgage? How do they pay their rents? How do they... everyone, I think, in my opinion, everyone deserves to be able to have a type of lifestyle that they can have even that little holiday at the end of the year. It's not anything extravagant. So, I mean, you should know where you're going from week to week and not be dependent on just hit and miss.
When you were in government, you didn't really build an awful lot of social houses. I know the economy was in difficult situations, but people are texting in here about this, and that your aspirations may be good, but your record over the last number of years...
Look, the reality was the country was bust. The Troika were in here, and we were in a difficult situation. And we have been... if you go back over history, you could look at the Labour Party in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We were the party that always built houses. We never let down the country. We always built houses, and we are now we're moving forward.
In the fall, would say that,
well, we have red line issues now, Damien, and we have to stick to those. I mean, we have to move forward. We have put our cards on the table this time. We will not go into government unless these are met. And that is important and has to be the way we...
You're willing to talk to everybody and anybody about it. Would you talk to Sinn Fein as well?
Well, look, the reality is, I suppose we should be willing to talk to anyone. The numbers will determine where we are after the next election. Obviously, we'll prefer to be dealing with people who are kind of similar to ourselves. The only fear that I have, if I'm honest with you, and I don't mean to be, we tried working with Sinn Fein in in the local area. You know, I mean, we put out there actually to everybody, maybe people would deny that, but we actually put out to say, look, let's work together, let's change the Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil overarching and everything, and let's try and work together. But when it came to the budget, unfortunately, we couldn't pass the budget, and that was a pity, really, because we really had hoped that we could work together and move forward at a local level. And if they couldn't do it locally, look, I'd just be worried that might happen nationally, and that
Why
would be
did
a
you
worry
feel
for us.
Sinn Féin let you down?
Well, look, I mean, I'm the mayor at the moment. I was in the position, where we felt we were being very fair. We came forward with ways of dealing with the budget and the deficits that we had, and Sinn Féin didn't come forward with any suggestions, and that was kind of difficult for us, that we had to, because that was one of the things we spoke about when we set up at that stage. We spoke about that and how we could work together, and the budgets was obviously one of the main things you have to pass, and the local property tax before that. So look, as I said,
they would argue,
but
argue obviously that they did it for a certain particular.
They would, but look, I mean, that was
reason.
I'm not ruling it out, and I don't see that we should. The people will tell, they'll get a mandate the same as us, and I'd ask people to come out and vote for us.
Why should people vote for Labour when your consistency so low in the polls, 5-6%? They might be feeling, well, the Greens have a better chance of going into government, or
the reality
Sinn Féin
is,
have a better chance of going into government.
When you talk about the polls there, the only poll that matters is the poll on the day. And to be fair, look, everybody wants to see an increase in the polls, but when you have only a certain amount of candidates, the polls are bound to be skewed. You know what I mean? So I believe that I'm out there on the doors. I'm listening to the issues. The real genuineness that people crying on my, I was at a door recently, and I spoke about it there earlier, who had someone actually crying on the doorstep because they have to be out of their home in the next month or so, and they don't see, they must find that home themselves because they're in a HAP accommodation and there is no private accommodation there from. So
but what can John Pratt do about that?
Well, John Pratt can do, look, if I'm in there, at least I can help. Our policies are to help the most vulnerable in our society. They are the people that we represent, the people that I represent on a day-to-day basis, as I said, my record, I hope, would stand for itself. I would say that there were very few people out there would actually say that John Pratt hasn't always tried his best. I don't make any false promises. I'm not going to be here saying that John Pratt is going to change the world on his own. He's not. But by God, am I going to go in there given an opportunity to fight tooth and nail for Waterford City and County.
Part of your policies is to increase rural GPs. You're going to have more GPs. How can you put GPs, are you going to subsidise them if they're not going to have the population base? How is it going to work?
Well, look, I suppose in relation to rural GPs, the one point I'll make on the rural GP situation, I have a hand on it, is even in Capriquin, where they're actually struggling with filling a position of GPs.
Yeah, that's the reason I asked you.
I have been very strong in the background, and I have been working.
So what would you propose to do?
Well, to be honest with you, in this particular situation, it's the good thing I hear is that at least we know that it's the GP service is going to remain in Capriquin, and it's important that it remain in every rural town and village. I have been speaking to the HSE, and there has been an interview process is taking place, and I'm told that offer of that job has been given, but whether that position will be taken up will be dependent on the person that has been offered that position. So what I'm saying is, I will constantly work for the people in my local area. I will work for the people of Waterford City and County and everywhere in between.
Do you believe Labour will be in government?
I believe that we have an opportunity, but that we won't go in there unless we can deliver what we aspire to. And look, the people will decide that. And I'm asking people that we want change. We see how Waterford has been treated over the last number of years. You have Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and I would ask that we be given an opportunity. The more numbers that we have, the better opportunity we have, and you'll have someone like John Pratt to represent you in the next Dáil.
John Pratt, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks a million, Damien.
Now, welcome back to the programme. We are going to do now a quick piece with Hazel McCarthy of Woofers Kennels in Ballygunnermore. Hazel, good morning.
Good morning, Damien. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hazel, we're up against the clock a little bit. We've only got 5 minutes for this item, but it's a very important item, and it's something we want to get people talking about. I didn't want to leave it because we've such a packed programme this morning. 3 dead puppies in a laneway in the area. Is that it?
Yes, that's correct. Now, I initially didn't find the puppies. A lady walking with her dogs found the puppies, and then another lady walking brought it to my attention. So my heart couldn't leave the puppies where they were, so I went up and removed the puppies.
Now let's just say this again, so that let's just say this again, so we've heard this. 3 dead puppies in a laneway in Ballygunnermore.
At the side of the road.
At the side of the road. What do we know? Were they thrown out of a car? Were they placed there? Were they in bags? Tell me about it.
They were in a plastic bag. They had a pink kind of underpants, more or less, if the word is right, in with them. Now, from what I know, they were found up in the ditch and somebody removed them from the ditch. So I would have imagined they would have been thrown from a car.
And they were in one plastic bag altogether, were they?
One little plastic bag, 3 of them.
And how big were they, or can you...
They were big enough puppies. Now, they weren't only born from a years of experience. So they would have been, to me, a week old. Now...
What breed? What breed are they, Hazel? Do we know?
It's hard to tell. I think roughly they'd be a collie mixed breed.
Right.
From looking at them. Now, the other thing is, I'm bringing those puppies to my vet this morning to dispose of them properly as well. So, but the other side of that, Damien, is the mother that gave birth to those puppies. Where is she? And that mother would be in pain because she would have milk she can't get rid of. You know what I'm saying?
This is just awful, isn't it?
Oh, it's horrendous. Because, I mean, the mother would be she'd be pining for her babies, as any mother would be. And as well as that, her milk would be, she has no way of getting rid of her milk. And if they were to dump 3 puppies in a plastic bag like that, I'm sure they're not going to bring the dog to the vet to get her milk sorted and get tablets to dry up her milk.
Yeah. And why would somebody have done this? Why, oh why, oh why? Does it look like they were harmed in any way, in the sense that was there marks on them? Were they suffocated?
No.
How do we think they died?
Well, unless they were thrown out alive and froze overnight from the cold. That would be my look on the way I found them anyway, because they're quite healthy puppies. They're big, quite healthy puppies. They're not little puppies that have just been born.
And again, no visible marks on them, so it doesn't look like they were beaten or hit or shot.
No, nothing like that, no. Now, I don't mean to be graphic, but their mouths were wide open, so I would imagine they were screaming, as in crying out. So they died with their mouths open. I know that's quite graphic to say as well, but I feel as if I have to kind of say it.
Well, it gives some sort of a semblance of what they must have gone through. God love them.
Absolutely. And the other side of it is then, even if I contact, which I am going to the Gardaí on my way to the vet to see can they get anything from the item that was left with them, but I doubt they will because of the weather conditions. Any forensics would have been killed by the weather, the cold weather overnight.
So do we think, sorry Hazel, that whoever left these here threw them possibly out of a vehicle maybe on Saturday night or sometime on Saturday? They were found on Sunday, is that right?
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. That's
so if anybody has any indication whatsoever, and people are texting in and they're just disgusted about this, and it's animal welfare is scandalous, horrendous, to contact the Gardaí, also to contact yourselves even through Woofers Kennels, but also contact any of the animal welfare areas.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
It's a crime.
But it's all down to the government as well. The laws some of the laws are there in place, but they're just not adhered to.
Hazel.
For the cruelty of the animals, unfortunately.
We'll talk to you tomorrow and maybe follow this up. Is that okay?
That's perfect, Damien. No problem. Thank you for your call.
Thank you. Hazel McCarthy there from Woofers Kennels, Ballygunnermore. Horrendous situation there, not only of animal cruelty, but it's a criminal offence and it's just completely immoral.